Did you know that our kids are seeing self-harm content and suicide content on social media? Like these videos, which were served to a 16-year-old in Arkansas named Mason Edens.
We're going to be exploring the top 10 reasons why I want to so sweet. Don't you love me? Though you don't need.
Shortly after TikTok served Mason these videos in his For You feed, Mason died by suicide using a gun, which is what we just saw recommended to him by TikTok. First of all, why is this type of content on social media at all? Why can't the platforms detect it and remove it? A new study was just released by the Molly Rose Foundation, which assessed more than 12 million content moderation decisions by 6 of the biggest social media platforms: TikTok, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, X, and Snapchat. The response of these tech firms to suicide and self-harm content was inconsistent. Here are a few notable highlights. Of all the self-harm and suicide content reported by these 6 platforms, a shocking 98% was reported by just 2 of the 6, Pinterest and TikTok. That doesn't mean that there isn't a whole hell of a lot of this type of content on X and Facebook and Snap and Instagram. It means that they're not finding it and reporting it. Instagram and Facebook each account for only 1% of moderation decisions tracked, which shows a major lack of investment and commitment from Meta to protect our children from suicide and self-harm content. So TikTok detected almost 3 million items of suicide and self-harm content over the 7-month time period, but it only suspended 2 of the accounts producing this content. This is likely due to the fact that TikTok's content moderation is nearly all automated. When humans aren't looking at the content to identify it as self-harm, it typically stays up. And I find this incredibly odd since a couple weeks ago in DC, I watched a TikTok executive give a presentation where she stated that TikTok employs 40,000 trust and safety team members. What are these people doing if their moderation process is almost 90% automated? Last highlight of this report that I want to note is that these platforms are not catching self-harm and suicide content within videos. They seem to be okay at catching self-harm and suicide content in text posts and even photos, but not video. For example, only 2% of content moderation decisions by Instagram were related to video. This is extremely concerning since these platforms are mostly video-based, and the short-form videos on Instagram Reels and TikTok has exceptionally high risk for material that is harmful, like suicide and self-harm content. 30% of teenage girls share that they consider suicide, and 13% have attempted suicide. Could there be a link between the failure of social media platforms to remove suicide content and the rise in teenage suicide rates? The answer is yes.